Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. I'm your host, Ellen, and today we have 100 questions on world history. Let's take a look at our Quiz Class awards. And here they are. You can let us know how you rank in the comments at the end, along with the answer to the bonus question. So let's begin. Which ancient civilization developed the Linear B writing system? Egyptians, Mycenaeans, or Sumerians? Mycenaeans. The Battle of Hastings in 1066 began the Norman conquest of which country? France, Scotland, or England? England. Who painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel? Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, or Raphael? Michelangelo. The city of Carthage was founded by settlers from which region? Phoenicia, Rome, or Greece? Phoenicia. Which ancient civilization created the first known democracy? Athenians, Romans, or Babylonians? Athenians. Who invented the printing press? Nicholas of Cusa, Johannes Gutenberg, or Filippo Brunelleschi? Johannes Gutenberg. Which invention is James Watt known for improving? The printing press, the steam engine, or the telegraph? The steam engine. Which empire used a communication system called Chasqui? Roman Empire, Chinese Empire, or the Inca Empire? The Inca Empire. The Treaty of Tordesillas divided the New World between which two countries? France and Portugal, Spain and England, or Spain and Portugal? Spain and Portugal. Which leader was nicknamed the Black Napoleon? Kwame Nkrumah, Toussaint Louverture, or Haile Selassie? Toussaint Louverture. Which European monarch was known as the Sun King? Louis XIV, Charles V, or Henry VIII? Louis XIV. The Sykes-Picot Agreement divided which region during World War I? The Balkans, North Africa, or the Middle East? The Middle East. Which historic figure invaded Italy by crossing the Alps with war elephants? Hannibal Barca, Alexander the Great, or Nero? Hannibal Barca. Which major war started after the defenestration of Prague? The Crimean War, the 30 Years' War, or the Franco-Spanish War? The 30 Years' War. Which scientist was placed under house arrest for promoting heliocentrism? Copernicus, Galileo Galilei, or Tycho Brahe? Galileo Galilei. The Rosetta Stone helped scholars understand which ancient language? Sumerian, Phoenician, or Egyptian hieroglyphics? Egyptian hieroglyphics. Which era does the prehistoric figurine Venus of Willendorf belong to? Paleolithic, Neolithic, or Bronze Age? Paleolithic. Who was the first president of independent Kenya? Nelson Mandela, Kwame Nkrumah, or Jomo Kenyatta? Jomo Kenyatta. The Trail of Tears refers to the forced relocation of which Native American tribe? Cherokee, Apache, or Sioux? The Cherokee or Cherokee. Who was the first European to reach India by sea? Ferdinand Magellan, Vasco da Gama, or Marco Polo? Vasco da Gama. Which empire established the city of Timbuktu as a major trade and learning center? Zulu Kingdom, Songhai Empire, or Mali Empire? Mali Empire. Which emperor made Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire? Augustus, Constantine, or Theodosius I? Theodosius I. Which religious practice did Martin Luther's 95 Theses criticize? Indulgences, fasting, or baptism? Indulgences. What was the main item being traded from West Africa to Europe in the trans-Saharan trade? Oil, gold, or coffee? Gold. Which Enlightenment thinker promoted the concept of natural rights? John Locke, Rousseau, or Thomas Hobbes? John Locke. Which island was mainly used by European immigrants coming to the U.S. in the 20th century? Ellis Island, Angel Island, or Long Island? Ellis Island. Which Mughal ruler ordered the Taj Mahal to be built? Shah Jahan, Akbar, or Aurangzeb? Shah Jahan. Which of these women is known as the founder of modern nursing? Marie Curie, Florence Nightingale or Clara Barton? Florence Nightingale. Edward Jenner discovered the vaccine for which disease? Measles, polio, or smallpox? Smallpox. Which continent was affected the most by the Little Ice Age? Excuse me. South America, Europe, or Africa? Europe. Which ancient civilization used aqueducts to transport water? Greeks, Romans, or Egyptians? Romans. What food item became a staple in Europe after being brought from the Americas? Rice, wheat, or potato? Potato. Which Renaissance artist painted the School of Athens? Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, or Michelangelo? Raphael. The Terracotta Army was created to accompany which Chinese emperor in the afterlife? Liu Bang, Wu Zetian, or Qin Shi Huang? Qin Shi Huang. Which military strategy did the Romans use to break the English field wall at the Battle of Hastings? Feigned retreat, direct frontal assault, or naval bombardment? Feigned retreat. Which ancient civilization is known for constructing ziggurats? Egyptians, Greeks, or Sumerians? Sumerians. What's the name of the massive land deal that the United States made with France in 1803? The Louisiana Purchase, the Alaska Purchase, or Gadsden Purchase? The Louisiana Purchase. Which civilization used a record-keeping system called Quipu that was based on knots and chords? The Mayans, the Incas, or the Olmecs? The Incas. Which 1215 document limited the powers of the English king for the first time? The Petition of Right, the Bill of Rights, or the Magna Carta? The Magna Carta. What did the 1830 July Revolution in France achieve? The restoration of monarchy, the start of Napoleonic rule, or the abdication of Charles X? The abdication of Charles X. Which Latin American leader started the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela? Hugo Chavez, Juan Perón, or Augusto Pinochet? Hugo Chavez. The Harlem Renaissance was a 1920s cultural movement. Which city was it centered in? Chicago, New Orleans, or New York City? New York City. Who established Turkey as a secular republic in 1923? Enver Pasha, Reza Shah, or Kemal Atatürk? Kemal Atatürk. The Hanseatic League was a trading alliance of cities in which region? Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, or Southern Europe? Northern Europe. Which bird species saved Rome by alerting soldiers to a Gallic invasion in early 4th century BC? Ravens, pigeons, or geese? Geese. Which continent did Ferdinand Magellan die on during his circumnavigation voyage? Asia, Africa, or South America? Asia. Which Buddhist emperor embraced nonviolence after the bloody Kalinga War? Chandragupta, Ashoka, or Harsha? Ashoka. Which pope launched the First Crusade in 1095? Innocent III, Gregory VII, or Urban II? Urban II. Which city was destroyed by a massive volcanic eruption in 79 AD? Athens, Carthage, or Pompeii? Pompeii. We are at question 50. Which female spy used her charm to gather intelligence during World War I? Edith Cavell, Mata Hari, or Virginia Hall? Mata Hari. Which 14th century pandemic killed over a third of Europe's population? Smallpox, influenza, or Black Death? Black Death. Which old civilization used cocoa beans as currency? The Mayans, the Greeks, or the Persians? The Mayans. Which island did Napoleon Bonaparte escape from in 1815? Elba, Corsica, or St. Helena? Elba. The Antikythera mechanism is believed to be an ancient Greek device used for what? Weapon construction, agriculture planning, or astronomy and calendars? Astronomy and calendars. Which structure in Rome hosted gladiatorial games? The Pantheon, the Colosseum, or the Forum? The Colosseum. Which British nurse was executed by the Germans during World War I for helping Allied soldiers escape? Florence Nightingale, Vera Brittain, or Edith Cavell? Edith Cavell. Which ancient festival is believed to be the origin of modern Halloween traditions? Lupercalia, Samhain, or Saturnalia? Samhain. What was the name of the horse that carried Alexander the Great through most of his expeditions? Bucephalus, Thunder, or Pegasus? Bucephalus. What color of clothing was once reserved only for Roman emperors? Crimson, black, or purple? Purple. Which style of shoes originated in Venice to help women avoid dirty streets? Chopines, ballet flats, or platforms? Chopines. Which leader banned beards in Russia in an attempt to modernize society? Ivan the Terrible, Peter the Great, or Nicholas II? Peter the Great. Which Aztec god demanded human sacrifice in order to make sure the sun would rise? I'm not even going to try to pronounce these. So A, B, or C? And the answer is A. Which European city held a trial against rats in the 15th century? Milan, Autun, or Paris? Autun. Which emperor wanted to make his horse a senator but died before he was able to make it happen? Nero, Commodus, or Caligula? Caligula. Which country invented the flamethrower during World War I? Germany, Britain, or France? Germany. Who was the first European to set foot on the land that is now Brazil? Hernan Cortés, Amerigo Vespucci, or Pedro Alvarez Cabral? Pedro Alvarez Cabral. Louis XIV is known as the longest reigning monarch of France. For how many years did he rule? 72, 85, or 91? 72. Which empire built the Hagia Sophia as a Christian cathedral? The Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, or the Ottoman Empire? The Byzantine Empire. Who first developed the concept of a programmable computer? Thomas Edison, Alan Turing, or Charles Babbage? Charles Babbage. Which U.S. president had a pet raccoon named Rebecca in the White House? Franklin D. Roosevelt, Calvin Coolidge, or Theodore Roosevelt? Calvin Coolidge. Which document officially ended serfdom in Russia in 1861? The Emancipation Manifesto, the Magna Carta, or the Charter of Rights? The Emancipation Manifesto. Which African country was never colonized by a European power? Ghana, Senegal, or Ethiopia? Ethiopia. Which chemical weapon was the first to be used in large-scale warfare in World War I? TNT, sulfur, or chlorine gas? Chlorine gas. Which country used poison-tipped umbrellas for assassinations during the Cold War? East Germany, Bulgaria, or Romania? Bulgaria. Which French military officer was falsely accused of treason in a major political scandal? Alfred Dreyfus, Louis Renault, or Henri Pétain? Alfred Dreyfus. Which country invented table tennis as an indoor sport in the 1800s? China, Britain, or Germany? Britain. Which African city was known for its vast libraries and schools during the 14th century? Lagos, Addis Ababa, or Timbuktu? Timbuktu. Which empire is known for building thousands of roads across South America? Aztec, Maya, or Inca? Inca. Which Enlightenment thinker promoted the idea of separation of powers? Montesquieu, Rousseau, or Voltaire? Montesquieu. What was the name of the expedition that was led by Ernest Shackleton across Antarctica? Terra Nova, Discovery, or Endurance? Endurance. We are at question 81. What type of shoe did Chinese elite women historically wear due to foot binding? Geta, Zori, or Lotus? Lotus. Which treaty ended hostilities between the US and Britain after the War of 1812? The Treaty of Ghent, the Treaty of Paris, or the Treaty of Utrecht? The Treaty of Ghent. Which 19th century invention completely changed communication over long distances? Typewriter, telegraph, or phonograph? Telegraph. Which English king faced the Peasants' Revolt in 1381? Richard II, Edward III, or Henry IV? Richard II. What food item was originally used to pay Roman soldiers? Barley, bread, or salt? Salt. In what year did France give the United States the Statue of Liberty as a gift? 1868, 1879, or 1884? 1884. Which Asian country was never colonized by a European power? Vietnam, Thailand, or Indonesia? Thailand. Who invented the stethoscope in 1816? René Laennec, Joseph Lister, or Wilhelm Röntgen? René Laennec. What was the code name for the German World War I plan that encouraged Mexico to invade the U.S.? Molotov Pact, Operation Torch, or the Zimmermann Telegram? The Zimmermann Telegram. What was the name of the play that Abraham Lincoln was attending when he was assassinated? Our American Cousin, Macbeth, or Hamlet? Our American Cousin. Who discovered the link between hand washing and reduced maternal deaths? Florence Nightingale, Jonas Salk, or Ignaz Semmelweis? Ignaz Semmelweis. What medical device did Wilhelm Röntgen invent in 1895? The MRI, the CT scanner, or the X-ray? The X-ray. Which statue in Florence was originally created as a political symbol? David, Venus de Milo, or St. George? David. What writing system was developed by the Sumerians? Cuneiform, hieroglyphics, or Cyrillic? Cuneiform. Which explorer is responsible for naming the Pacific Ocean? Ferdinand Magellan, James Cook, or Amerigo Vespucci? Ferdinand Magellan. Which city was destroyed by a devastating earthquake in 1755? Naples, Lisbon, or Marseille? Lisbon. Which volcano's eruption in 1815 caused global climate anomalies? Vesuvius, Krakatoa, or Tambora? Tambora. Who was the last Tsar of Russia? Alexander III, Nicholas I, or Nicholas II? Nicholas II. Which country experienced the Boxer Rebellion in 1900? Japan, Vietnam, or China? China. Which ancient civilization allowed women to own property and businesses? The Egyptians, the Greeks, or the Romans? The Egyptians. And our bonus question. The Asian country that was occupied by Japan from 1910 to 1945 was what? Let us know the answer in the comments. And don't forget to tell us how you ranked with our quiz class Einstein Rewards. Thanks for playing this quiz, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.